The universe is whispering to you. Are you listening? The time has come. The reunion is near. If your heart raced just from reading this sentence, this video is for you. It's no coincidence that you are here right now. It's not by chance that you are seeking answers, feeling something in your chest that insists on calling for the other, even when reason tries to silence it. Because there are connections that do not die. There are bonds that no distance, silence, or time can break. This is not a common love story. It is a soul journey. Perhaps you are feeling increasingly strong signs, dreams, intuitions, unexpected encounters, synchronicities, names that appear out of nowhere, songs that express exactly what you feel. And the question echoing inside you is clear. Are we about to reunite? Today, we are going to talk about the return of twin flames. And if you've made it this far, it's because this message is for you. Prepare to dive into a truth that the spiritual world has been trying to show you for a long time. You are getting closer again, and the signs leave no doubt. Welcome to the channel, a space where the soul finds comfort, where the invisible gains words, and where you can remember who you are and what you came to live. Subscribe now, activate the notification bell, and share this video with anyone who also feels this calling. This gesture might be exactly the bridge between a confused heart and a soul that needed this message. Let's go together until the end. Because the reunion of twin flames is not just about the other, it's about you. Have you felt like something inside you is restless, as if there were a constant presence even in the absence? Maybe you are trying to move on with life, focusing on other things, occupying your mind with work, distractions, even other people. But deep down, there is a place that continues to wait, a space inside your chest that seems like it has never been occupied by anyone else. And no matter how much you try to explain it to others or even to yourself, this absence has a name, an energy, a unique signature, your twin flame. This video is not about neediness. It's not about ordinary longing. It's about a spiritual connection that defies logic. A bond that, even on days when it seems to have been extinguished, remains alive like an ember deep within the soul. There are people who pass through our lives and teach us something, but there is one in particular who reveals who we are. This is the twin flame. And when this soul departs, whether due to a conscious decision, conflict, fear, spiritual immaturity, or simply the divine timing of things, the emptiness that ensues is not the absence of someone. It is the disconnection from a part of ourselves. Many people live this experience in silence. They feel confused, alone, questioning their own sanity. How can I feel so much for someone who is no longer here? Am I deluding myself? Was all of this real only for me? These questions are more common than you might imagine. And if you have asked any of them, know that you are not alone. The reunion with the twin flame does not begin with the other. It begins with facing all those questions. It starts with the courage to look within and admit, it still hurts. It still pulses. There is still something calling me to this person, even if I don't understand, even if I don't want to suffer anymore. The problem is that the mind tries to erase what the soul has already recognized, but the soul does not forget. The soul feels. And because of that, no matter how much time passes, no matter how many new stories present themselves, something in you keeps looking back, waiting for a sign, a word, a reunion. This journey is not light. Loving a twin flame forces you to confront all your deepest fears. The fear of rejection, the fear of loss, the fear of not being enough, the fear of being alone forever. And that is precisely why this connection is so transformative. It did not come just to be experienced on the physical plane. It came to refine you spiritually, to awaken you, to break you, yes, but also to rebuild you at a new level of consciousness. The big truth is that not every separation is permanent, and not every silence means forgetfulness. Sometimes, what seems like the end is just the necessary intermission for two souls to align with who they truly are. The reunion may be closer than you think, but it doesn't happen when you force it. It happens when you understand, when you grow, when you become your own home before expecting the other to return. Many feel they are about to experience this return. Dreams intensify, synchronicities increase, There is a sense of preparation, as if something is being aligned behind the scenes of the invisible. And when this starts to happen, the call becomes stronger. No matter where you are, what you are doing, or how much time has passed, your soul begins to know. It starts to remember. And that is what is happening to you right now. You are not going crazy. You are awakening. You are crossing a portal where love ceases to be neediness and becomes consciousness, where reunion is not just with the other, but with everything you ignored within yourself to try to survive the pain of separation. It is time to look at all of this with courage, to let go of the masks, the fears, the doubts, because if you've come this far, it's because you are ready for something greater. You are ready to see with the eyes of the soul. You are ready to understand what lies behind everything that hurt. And most importantly, you are ready to remember what your soul has always known. The reunion of twin flames does not start outside. It starts now, within you. There is a point in the journey where the pain seems unbearable. It is no longer just longing. It is as if you are trapped between two worlds. On one hand, the desire to move forward, to free oneself from everything that hurts. On the other, the silent certainty that what was experienced with the twin flame was not, and will never be, something ordinary. This internal conflict consumes, corrodes, exhausts. You try to deny it, try to cut the bond, try to suffocate the feeling, but something always slips away. A memory, a song, a scent, an intuition that arises from nowhere. And then you realize, no matter how much the ego tries to forget, the spirit continues to remember. At this point, many give up. They tire. They feel defeated. They think that love is over, that everything was an illusion, that they are trapped in a fantasy created by need or idealization. And it is precisely here that the true spiritual process begins. Because while the pain was only emotional, there was still hope for control. But when the pain reaches the soul, there is no more escape. You need to look within. And looking within means seeing that the separation was never from the other. The separation has always been from yourself. The twin flame did not come to complete you. It came to reveal the parts of you that were still sleeping, wounded, hidden. And that is why this encounter is so deep, so intense, so painfully revealing. It lays bare everything you tried to bury. Your insecurities, your masks, your idealizations, your fears, your emotional dependency. The twin flame is the most honest mirror that life could offer you. And when this mirror moves away, what remains is the image of everything that needs to be healed in you. At this point, suffering stops being just about the other and starts being about you. About your story, your childhood wounds, your unresolved traumas, your limiting beliefs about love, abandonment, and deserving. The ego wants to believe it was rejected. The soul, however, knows it was summoned. Summoned for a dive that no ordinary relationship could have provided. Because the twin flame did not come just to love you. It came to break you in a divine way, to destroy what is small in you, what is fragile, conditioned, learned, and to rebuild with sacred fire what is authentic, free, true. You may be wondering, but why so much suffering? Why can't it be simple? And the answer is clear, because you asked to awaken. Your soul chose this path. It chose to come to earth to experience a love that is not about possession, control, or instant happy endings. It is a love that transcends lives, that breaks structures, that challenges everything the world understands as romance. And precisely because of that, it is so misunderstood. Because this love did not come to fit into fairy tales. It came to rewrite your story. The universe hears everything you feel, even in silence. It hears when you cry into your pillow and say, "It's over." But inside you still scream, "Come back." It hears when you say you are fine, but your energy vibrates longing. It hears when you try to move on, but still carry the name of the other in your heart. And most importantly, the universe does not judge. It understands, it embraces, and it responds. Just not always in the way you expect. Often, the answer comes in the form of pain. Because it is through pain that you move, that you ask yourself, who am I without this person? Why do I need this so much to feel whole? What in me is seeking outside what I have not yet recognized within? And that is where everything begins to change. Because when you start to ask yourself, the universe starts to show you. The illusions of romantic love, fueled by movies, social expectations, and deep-seated needs, begin to dissolve. You start to realize that loving is not about holding on, not about controlling, not about expecting the other to save you. Loving is allowing. It is freeing. It is looking at the other with gratitude, even when they distance themselves, because it was this distancing that forced you to look within. The true revelation is not in the return of the twin flame. It is in the understanding that separation was never punishment. It was a portal, an invitation from the universe for you to remember your light. Because as long as you believe you need the other to be happy, you will be in disharmony with the truth of your soul. And the truth is that you are already whole. You are already complete. You are already divine. What the universe expects from you at this moment is not despair. It is surrender. It is not expectation. It is presence. Because true reunion only happens when both souls are aligned in frequency. And this frequency is not reached through neediness, but through awareness. It is not reached by chasing after, but by diving inward. As painful as it may be, as unfair as it may seem, this separation was the greatest opportunity for spiritual transformation in your life. It was the spark that ignited the fire of your inner search. And if you listen with your heart, you will realize it was not the end. It was the beginning of everything. There comes a moment when you stop resisting, not because you have given up, but because you finally understood that the struggle was not with the other. It was with yourself, with your expectations, with attachments, with the unconscious desire to control time, destiny, and even the spiritual path of the one you love. And when this understanding starts to emerge, another force takes the place of pain, the force of surrender. Surrender is not passivity. Surrender is spiritual maturity. It is the moment when the soul bows before the divine mystery, recognizing that there is something much greater in motion, something that the mind could never understand, but that the heart has already begun to accept. And it is precisely in this silent surrender, in this deep state of presence and respect for the universe's timing, that healing begins to manifest. At first, silence felt like punishment. The absence of the other hurt like an open wound. But now, gradually, this silence is transforming into comfort. It is becoming space. It is being recognized as a sacred time of introspection and realignment. What once felt empty becomes full, and what was once absence becomes presence of self. It is in this introspection that you begin to truly listen to yourself. You start to acknowledge your wounds, not with guilt or self-punishment, but with compassion. You begin to realize that behind the pain was an ancient request for attention, for self-love, for ancestral healing. You come to understand that this story with your twin flame did not begin in this life, and perhaps the current distance is merely a repetition of a pattern that has been repeating for centuries. And as painful as it may be, you understand. Now is your chance to break free from it. Now is your opportunity to heal not only this story, but all the past stories that still echo in your energetic field. This understanding brings peace. A peace that does not depend on the return of the other. A peace that arises from acceptance. Because when you accept that the other is exactly where they need to be, you stop demanding. You stop charging. You stop projecting. And in that clean space, a new kind of love begins to bloom. A love that is lighter, freer, more genuine. A love that does not cling, does not suffocate, does not insist. A love that simply is. In this healing process, you also begin to perceive something subtle, yet extremely powerful. A true reconnection with the other can only happen when the inner reconnection has already occurred. As long as you seek in the other the half that you feel is missing in you, the energy of the connection remains unbalanced. But when you reconcile with who you are, when you embrace your pain, your light, your processes, your story, you begin to vibrate at a different frequency. A frequency where love is not scarcity, it is abundance. Where the bond is not dependency, it is freedom. And it is in this new frequency that miracles begin to happen. You start to attract different experiences. You begin to notice clearer signs, not as desperate proofs that the other still loves you, but as confirmations that you are on the right path. Revelatory dreams, subtle messages from the universe, feelings of deeper connection with the whole. Everything begins to align. And not because you are striving, but because you are surrendering. Because you have stopped fighting against life, against time, against yourself. Your energy changes. And when your energy changes, everything around you begins to respond to this transformation. And this includes your twin flame. They may not return immediately, may not even consciously perceive what is happening, but something within them begins to move. Because the thread between you has not been broken. It has merely lain dormant so that both of you could have time to heal. As you rebalance, you start to live differently. You begin to respect your time, to care for your body, to connect with nature, to listen to your intuition, to open space for new experiences without fear of losing yourself. You realize that you are becoming whole, not because someone completed you, but because you decided to rebuild yourself. And at this point, the rush disappears, the despair fades away, doubt gives way to trust, because you no longer need to know how or when the reunion will happen. You just feel that if it is meant to be, it will be, and it will be in a new, truer, deeper, more conscious way. Because now you are different. Now you know who you are. Now you have returned home, to the home of your own soul. This healing is not linear. There will be days when you will miss, when it will hurt again, when you will want to give up. But in those moments, you will know that you are on the right path, because healing is not the end of pain. It is the change of relationship with it. It is the ability to traverse the shadow with presence. It is to look at the void and not lose yourself in it. It is to move forward, even with a trembling heart, because now you trust, and this trust is sacred. It is what sustains your awakening. It is what supports you when everything seems uncertain. It is what reminds you that, before any external reunion, the most important was this internal reunion that is now taking place. The reunion with your strength, with your light, with your mission. This love story may have begun with the other, but its true purpose has always been about you, and now you are beginning to understand. You are starting to feel. You are finally beginning to awaken. There is a moment in the journey when everything changes, and not because the other has returned, or because a message has finally arrived, or because the long-awaited physical reunion has happened. What changes, in fact, is the center of gravity of your consciousness. It is as if something within you silently says, "Now I understand." It is not a mental, logical, or rational understanding. It is a visceral comprehension, felt in the body, in the emotions, in the soul. A certainty that does not need proof, because it arises from within. It arises from the reunion with your higher self. This higher self is not a distant, unattainable, or mystical entity. It is your most lucid, most awake, most loving part. It is that version of you that always knew the purpose of each pain, that has always accompanied every step, every choice, every fall, and that, silently, awaited the moment when you would stop seeking outside for what has always been within. It is this consciousness that begins to emerge now, and when it awakens, everything changes. You begin to realize that what once broke you no longer brings you down. That what seemed like the end is now seen as a passage. That the silence of the other is no longer abandonment, it is freedom. That the passing time is no longer despair, it is maturation. And this shift in perception is the greatest sign that your personal power is returning. You are no longer living reactively to circumstances. You are creating a new reality from within. This is true spiritual magnetism, not the kind that forces, that attracts the other through energetic manipulation or neediness, but the authentic, silent, and natural magnetism that arises when a soul returns to its own center, when it stops begging for affection, stops wanting to be chosen, stops comparing itself, stops diminishing itself, when it simply is. And what it is begins to resonate so deeply with the field around it that everything starts to reorganize, not through control, but through energetic coherence. You begin to attract different people. You start to be treated differently. You begin to be seen in a new way, not because something has changed on your exterior, but because your frequency has changed. You have become presence. You have become truth. You have become a clear channel of your higher self, and this clarity emanates from you effortlessly. You no longer need to shout to be heard. You no longer need to beg for love. You no longer need to try to prove your worth, because you recognize your worth, and this internal recognition changes everything. In this state, love still exists, but now it is free, it is mature, it is universal. You still love your twin flame, but not as before, not with the pain of someone who loses, but with the gratitude of someone who understands. You begin to honor this being, not for everything they did or didn't do, but for everything they activated in you. For having been the mirror, the catalyst, the master, the initiator of your expansion. And the most amazing thing is that at this point, you realize that love is not lost. It just changes form. It dissolves like ice turning into water. It adapts, transforms, elevates. The love that was once a cry is now a prayer. The love that was once a need is now an offering. The love that was once an expectation is now contemplation. This is where you begin to access the wisdom that has always been stored in your soul. Memories of other lives, forgotten gifts, sharpened intuition, a connection with the whole that supports you even on days of silence. You remember that you are not alone. You never were. Because your higher self has always walked by your side, even when you felt lost. It was there, observing, supporting, waiting for the right moment for your human part to be ready to listen. And now you listen. You hear that gentle and deep voice saying, "You are love, you are light, you are whole." This voice does not promise a happy ending with another, does not feed illusions, does not offer shortcuts, but it gives you something infinitely more valuable. It returns you to yourself, and that is everything. From here, you begin to live from a different place. You start to act with more awareness, speak with more presence, choose with more alignment. You become careful with your energy, selective with your connections, protective of your vibrational field. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You know what it costs you to step out of yourself, and because of that, you remain. You choose yourself, and by choosing yourself, you invite the world to do the same. Your twin flame, even if still distant, feels it. Perhaps doesn't understand, perhaps can't even name it, but feels it. Because when a soul awakens, all true connections around it are also called to awaken. It is not you who calls, it is your light. And this light is irresistible, not because it seduces, but because it reveals. Not because it promises, but because it inspires. Not because it demands, but because it frees. At this point in the journey, you no longer need guarantees. You no longer need the other to say they love you, to come back, to understand. You simply continue. And this continuation is not escape, nor indifference. It is maturity. It is faith. It is a type of love so deep that it no longer fits in old forms. It is a love that overflows and moves forward. And if the reunion is part of the divine plan, it will come. Not as rescue, but as celebration. Not as need, but as expansion. You are now sovereign. You are now a temple. You are now the guide of your own journey. What once broke you now strengthens you. What once paralyzed you now propels you. Because you have been reborn. And it was not by chance. It was by choice. It was by courage. It was because even without guarantees, you chose to trust. And this, in itself, is already a miracle. We have reached the end of this journey, but something in you knows that this is not an end. It is a silent new beginning, an internal rebirth that you may not yet know how to name, but can already feel pulsing inside you. A state of presence, of lucidity, of reconnection with something that for a long time seemed lost, and now returns. Returns not as an external promise, but as a sacred seed planted within you. You are no longer the same person you were when you started this video. Something has been touched. Something has been remembered. And this remembrance is not emotional. It is spiritual. It comes from the deepest place of your soul, that place where all that is true remains, even when everything else crumbles. In there, your essence whispers, "You always knew. And now you realize that yes, you always knew. Always knew that this love was not ordinary. Always knew that this story had a greater purpose. Always knew that behind the pain, there was an initiation. And now, this silent knowing becomes a beacon, a reference point amid chaos, a firm center in the midst of the whirlwind. You no longer need to search so much. You no longer need to prove anything. You no longer need to defend yourself from what you feel. You are learning to simply be, to occupy your space without fear, to love without demanding, to walk without losing yourself. Your story with the twin flame continues. Perhaps it will return tomorrow, perhaps in another season, perhaps in another life. But now, this no longer defines your axis, because the true reunion has already happened. It happened when you chose to look at yourself with honesty, when you allowed yourself to feel everything, without censorship, without hurry, when you stopped running away and decided to inhabit the now. Don't be fooled. This process does not make you immune to pain, but it gives you the maturity to cross through it. It gives you the structure to love without abandoning yourself. It gives you clarity to recognize what is real and what is projection. It gives you the freedom to let go, not out of resignation, but out of wisdom. Because love, when it is true, never gets lost. It changes, it evolves, it finds new ways to express itself. Maybe, at this moment, your twin flame is still distant. Maybe they are going through their own processes, stuck in their own fears, unaware of what you both truly are. And that's okay, because one soul's timing is not the same as another's. And healing does not happen by dragging. Healing happens through mirroring. When you heal within yourself, you send a silent wave of light that reaches the other, even if they don't know why they are being touched. This is the power you carry now, the power to love consciously, to remain with dignity, to walk with faith, and to trust that everything that is true finds its way, even if it needs to get lost first, even if it needs to die first, because real love does not die. It simply transforms until both are ready to sustain it with soul, with truth, with presence. And if you've made it this far, if you felt every word vibrating in your body, if something within you ignited even amidst tears, then this video has fulfilled its mission. It came as a reminder, as a sign, as an answer to those questions you've been asking silently when no one is watching. It came to say, you are not alone. You never were. And what you feel is not an illusion. It is a calling. Now, I invite you to be part of this journey in a more conscious and connected way. If this message touched your heart, if it brought clarity, strength, or hope, subscribe to the channel. Here, every word is chosen with intention. Every video is an offering to the awakening of the soul. Like this content, share it with someone else who is also going through this passage. You don't know how much a word can be the light that someone was silently asking for. And tell me in the comments, what moment of this video touched you the most? What was the phrase, the excerpt, the truth that you felt was written just for you? Your account can open paths for other souls who are also seeking clarity amid the darkness. Because together, even in silence, even when distant, we form an invisible network of healing and expansion. Each individual awakening strengthens the collective field. And each soul that returns to itself makes the world a truer, more loving, more whole place. You are not here by chance. This message found you because you were ready to receive it. And now that it has reached you, something new begins to be born. A new cycle, a new vision, a new version of you. And remember, the most sacred reunions do not happen when the other returns. They happen when you return to yourself, and it is in that moment that everything aligns.